Welcome into Mississippi State Live here on the Voice of College Football Network. We're running just a couple minutes behind. We already have somebody in the link to call in, so we'll get them added in here just in a sec to let them give their thoughts. This is our first call-in show. We've been doing the live show for about a month and a half now, previewing the season, and it's week one. There are college football games on as we speak. I've got Boise State USF on to the TV just to the side of me. Mississippi State's heading down to Hattiesburg to take on the Southern Miss Golden Eagles. Should be an interesting game. We have obviously earlier in the week, we did a full preview breaking down that game, and we're going to talk that matchup a little bit more tonight. Later on in the show, we're going to make our picks for the week. That'll be something we do throughout the years. We'll probably on these Thursday night shows make our predictions for college football for the week, and we'll keep track of our picks throughout the year, see how things go. Looking forward to tonight. And look, this is a fun opportunity. And again, we've already got somebody waiting. We wanted to get the chance to chat with you guys and see what you guys have to say, and let this sort of just be a fun chit chat, get together, talk about the Bulldogs, talk college football. It doesn't all have to be Mississippi State related. We're going to try to I guess I would say when you guys join in the stream, and I should say, so we've got it both in the description of the video and also it pinned to the top of the comment section. So you can join through StreamYard. That's how we have it set up. I would just say keep the cameras off. And if you pop up with the camera on, we'll try to get it turned off as quick as possible. Because we don't want it, not that I think many of you care whether your face is shown or not. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But obviously we're mostly just trying to for people's privacy, we want to try to keep it that way as best as possible. Tom Self, G5 team beating Boise State deep in the third.
Hey, let's go South Florida. Not too far from me in the Tampa area, man.
And I want to get our first listener in here just in a sec. It's an interesting game, and it's a fun matchup with South Florida. Should be an fun team this year. And we'll let you guys get in and give your thoughts on the game this weekend or on college football. Just do want to stay off the top. If you could, hit us a like. Hit that subscribe button. If not already, be sure to share this. If you could, we'd appreciate it. And follow along. Hit that notification bell so that you know whenever we do go live. Obviously, right now we kind of have that Monday and Thursday schedule going, but for the future, who knows? If there's big news, maybe we have a chance to do a live show here or there. We're going to be going live at some point after the season opener for Mississippi State, recapping whatever happens against Southern Miss. So definitely want to have those notifications turned on. But it is a call-in show. We've got a guy waiting here. So let's go ahead and add him to the stage. Welcome in.
What's up, Sven?
What's up, Ballard? Good morning,
Hey,
Andrew Miller. Andrew, for your knowledge, I know Ballard a long time.
Okay. I love it. He just texted me that you are a good guy. So you got a glowing review.
I'm not a good guy. I'm a nasty old cowbell man from Germany.
I love it.
But winning or losing, I'm here. I don't.
That's awesome.
And that's important. So, 3 things. First of all, if Mississippi State goes to Hattiesburg and can't beat a complete, renewed 1-11 Southern Miss Marshall Thundering team by at least 3 touchdowns, we should fire Lebby on the spot.
Oh, no.
On the spot.
First caller.
And I tell you why.
Come on, man.
What?
No, go on. I want
to hear what he has to say.
I tell you why. Mississippi State has at least 5 times the money what USM has. We have the better facilities. We have the better players. I saw linemen from USM weighing 240 pounds. Guys, we have at least 2 top 8 running backs in the SEC. Devin Booth, Fluff Buswell. If we can't handle this D-line and run the ball on them as we will and as we like, we will not win a single game this year. Maybe we can upset Arkansas State, but we will not beat NIU. You saw what NIU did to Notre Dame last year?
True.
They
Good
manhandled
program
them
right
on the
now.
lines. And if our lines are not better, we go 0-12. So, and if we don't beat Southern Miss, a 1-11 team, we are in rebuild year 2. USM is in rebuild year 1. Complete new team, 65 transfers, complete new coaching staff. I mean, Coach Huff is a legend in the Sun Belt. Everybody knows that. And Marshall had 10 wins last year. But against who? They beat Old Dominion. They didn't play a single team of a caliber of even Mississippi State. Everybody they played outside of the Sun Belt, they lost to. There is absolute no excuse to beat them by only 10 or 14 points. There is no excuse. If we win this game by 8 points, they should fire Levy on the spot. Because this is not enough. This is way not enough.
Well, let me ask you this, Finn. I think you make some good points about, if we lose this Southern Miss game, you make some good points. I don't know if I agree with the firing of Jeff Levy, but you did make good points on everything else. Let me ask you how you actually feel about the game itself, though. As Andrew and I have talked a lot about Mississippi State this
55.
this offseason.
55-20.
Okay.
That's how I feel. And I tell you why I give them 20 points. They have a really, 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 really good quarterback. And he will make some plays.
I would more so ask why you're giving State 55. If I'm being honest, I got to hear.
I tell you
because,
why.
Go ahead.
I tell you why. First of all, we have a seasoned championship-winning quarterback. Blake Shapen won the Big 12 when Texas was busy winning 5 games in the Big 12. Yeah? He won the Big 12. And Sarkisian that year won 5 games. He went 5-7 with Texas. So Shapen has the experience. Shapen has the arm. And Shapen is not a quarterback who throws 5 interceptions a game. What eventually can cost us the game. So he will not turn the ball over. Maybe one time, but not 3, 4, 5 times. So we have a way superior run game. And we will crush them with the run game. Normally,
I could agree about the run game. Yeah.
Yeah. And Shapen is the better quarterback. Shapen is seasoned.
Yeah.
He knows what he's doing. So, and for Braxton, the quarterback here from USM or Marshall, this is his Super Bowl. And he never saw linemen like this. We have now linemen 320, 325 pounds. They have one guy who is 310 pounds. One guy. They brought not a single O-line man from Marshall to Southern Miss. Not a single one. This O-line is atrocious from USM. It is a bad O-line. And Levy said in the offseason, the biggest focus is on the lines. We have to fix those lines. And if our D-line can't handle a 1-11 Southern Miss O-line, who went 1-11 without any starters for Marshall, and Marshall is still a Sun Belt team and not a SEC team. They are not Alabama or UGA or LSU or something like that. They are still Marshall or USM. They are still a Sun Belt team. So they should have no chance at all. This game should be clear cut over after halftime. At halftime. clear cut. We have to have, at halftime, a 3 touchdown lead. Put Shapen out, bring Tamario Taylor in, let him play a bit, let him test a bit. So Isaac Smith out, put our main guys out, bring the third running back. So, I mean, their best running back is Sam Pittman. And Pittman, how many playing time he had at Mississippi State?
He played a good bit. Pittman's a talented back, but no, he wouldn't
Pittman is a nice guy. I like him, but he ain't no booze or fluff buzzball.
I agree. And you know what? I want to make you brought up a point and that I do think is interesting. And while I won't necessarily agree that you got to fire him if it's not a complete and total blowout, there is a sentiment, though, that you're getting at that I 100% agree with. And you actually mentioned this because you talked about that it's year 2 for Lebby compared to year 1 for Huff. And I do think a big thing in this game is even if your mindset, if you want to be the most generous to Southern Miss that you can be going to this game, which is to say, like, hey, this is actually going to end up being a pretty decent team in the Sun Belt, and that's not a bad G5. You should give them some respect. What I would say to that is, okay, so in one off season for Charles Huff taking over a 1-11 program that was in worse shape, if in one off season he can take that team and get them to a point where they can compete with Mississippi State going into year 2 of Jeff Lebby, that wouldn't be a good sign for Jeff Lebby. So to your point of – go ahead.
No, it's your turn.
I was just going to say, like, to that point that you're making of, like, you need to show that you should just be the better team with all the resources. I wholeheartedly agree that, again, you're talking about Jeff Lebby in year 2 with what they've invested into this roster. You shouldn't be talking about Southern Miss being capable of immediately jumping in and competing with Mississippi State. Now, look, does that mean that if it's a close game and State wins by a score and they pull away late that it's all into the world? No. But you certainly, for the sake of the fan base, you need to show much, much more.
I mean, if this would be a baseball game, and with our current roster, we have a top 3 roster in all of NCAA in baseball. And we go to Hattiesburg on a Wednesday for one game. USM is always capable to beat Mississippi State in baseball. All it takes is one elite pitcher, and he shoots you down. But this is football. You need 22 guys. And if USM has 22 better guys as Mississippi State, and we have a close game, or God forbid we lose this game, it's over.
I hear you, Sven. Look,
I watch the games normally at 2. Now it's here 2 a.m. It's 2:15 in Germany.
Wow.
So if Mississippi State plays against Oklahoma at 9 a.m. 9 p.m. your time, it's 3 a.m. at my time. So wow. I watched the whole baseball season. So until 6 in the morning. So I'm a diehard. So, and I expect excellence from Mississippi State. We can't allow the school up north to laugh about us. I mean, ain't gonna happen. We have to win games. I mean, we will beat USM, we will beat Archon, and we will beat NIU. So Arizona State will destroy us. They absolutely will destroy us. I mean, they bring back the complete defense. 10 players from that team last year who took Texas to 2 overtimes and should have won the game, they return. I mean, we need a field day from our run game and from Shapen and our wide receivers to even come close to 20 points. And they have Sam Levitt. I mean, Levitt is not the greatest thrower in the world, but he's a damn good quarterback, and he is seasoned. The only piece they miss is Cam Scatterboo. All the rest is coming back, including that head coach. So, and Arizona State is far, far better than Mississippi State. And I tell you what, Ole Miss last year don't want to play Arizona State. I can tell you that. With Scatterboo, I can tell you that. This was a damn good football team. They had their flaws.
Yep.
So we don't beat Arizona State. We have our best chance to win games are three. Tennessee at home, because I think Tennessee's offense will not be good. They lost so much. 99% of their complete offense is gone. Their leading three receivers are gone. Nico is gone, who was a bad quarterback, by the way, and Dylan Sampson. So Pierce from their defensive captain is gone. I mean, on defense, Tennessee should still be good, but not in the secondary. They always have a good line, but the secondary is bad. So, and Shapen should be capable to light them up over the top. So, our second game, what we can win, is Missouri. I'm not a believer in Purdue. They lost Luther Burton, Braden Cook, Theo Weiss, and Missouri won 10 games because of their schedule. Every single good team they played, they got blown out. They got smoked by Alabama by how many, Ballard? 50? 40? What was it?
It was a lot.
Plus.
It was a lot.
Plus somewhere, yeah.
So, and the Aggies, they still score on Eli Drinkwitz. They also won by 44-10 or 44-7 or something like that. And if we can run the ball against Missouri and hold them on the bench, they will not beat us. And now call me crazy. Our third biggest shot is Ole Miss at home. Ole Miss went 9-3 last year with a team worth $22.5 million. How many players from that team are gone? A lot. There is no Walter
Especially
Nolan.
on offense.
There is no Jackson Dart. All these defensive guys are all in the NFL. The only real good guy they bring back was their backup quarterback and now starting freshman quarterback Austin Simmons. He is really good, from what I heard. And I don't know if you know Matt Wyatt.
Yeah,
he's a former quarterback from Mississippi State, and he makes a daily radio show. I listened to the show and comment to him. I know him since 10 years or something like that, and he told us Austin Simmons is a stud. And if he tell me this, I believe him. And Steve Robertson also said it. Rose Bowl. So, and we have a really good shot if we can bring our defense together and have a really good run game. But it all starts with the run game and this offensive line. If we can do this, we can win 5 games. But that's the maximum.
You know, I think that's all fair. I do think if you get the best version of Mississippi State, you're going to have a chance in those games, like you said. And I'll go just to close out here with the Southern Miss. No, I definitely agree with a lot of the sentiment that you had, that you need a good showing from State. Like, this is based on the way things were, or based on the situations inherited, based on where State is at compared to where Southern is at. Even a close game, people are not happy with that.
It's about recruiting.
Oh, for sure.
If we look back against Southern, the recruits are not coming. And we can't compete against Bama or LSU or even against Missouri with 3 stars. We need some 4 stars. And Mississippi State always had, at every team, 1 or 2 5 stars on defense. Jeffrey Simmons, you name them. Chris Jones, you know the names. Adams, you know the guys. So, and nobody want to see Mississippi State. Nobody. Because they know if you come to Starkville, it's a war for 60 minutes. And we are miles away from that. I hope we get better. My prediction is 4-8 with a 3-1 start, and we upset Tennessee, and we lose a very close game in the Egg Bowl.
That'd be a tough close to the season, but 4-8 would be a nice step forward. Finn, we thank you so much for taking the time for joining in. We appreciate you staying up crazy late.
No, I'm a college football fan. I watched the Mizzou game.
There you go. We love it.
Dude, we only have 12 weekends.
That's the right
mentality. I'm retired. I don't have to work. I'm an old guy. I don't have to work anymore.
It's the perfect mentality to have. Well, we thank you so much for your call. We thank you for taking the time with us. And we hope to hear from you again next time we do this.
Yep.
Thanks, Finn. Appreciate you, buddy.
I see it. Ballard, Friday, 6 p.m. week.
Friday, what?
Sorry, I'll let you get those last point in. Sorry, I was going to move on. But what would you have to say?
On Friday, Vic starts his show at 6.
Yeah,
at 6.
I'll try to be there for sure.
Yeah, stop by. And we can talk more Mississippi State. Okay, guys, kick me out.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Finn.
All right, Will, you've been waiting patiently. Let's get you in here.
Oh, hello there. How's it going, gentlemen?
What's up, man? How you doing?
Doing good. Yeah, I mean, I guess we could discuss Southern Miss, permanent opponents, or even logos, I guess. Well, I don't think we need to go that
Why not? Why not all of it, man? Let's go. What you got?
Will, I know you love the logo on the hat that I'm wearing.
I like I've said, I'm fine with the word art Mississippi State logo if that's what we want to go back to. Anything but the Arnett or Ole Miss script. That looks fine to me. I'm fine with the MSU word art logo. That's good with me. Walking Bully is definitely top tier as well. So
I'm right there with you on that. No, Will's a buddy of mine, and we had this conversation the other day. We don't fully align on the logo thing. But there's some common ground, and Walking Bully being the most elite of the MSU logos is right there. I did see like Maroon & Co. just dropped those new hats. I've got to get me one of those. Will, what do you want to talk about?
Well, I guess we can start with Southern Miss here. So obviously, I guess the last time we played them, 2015. And I kind of feel like we're kind of in a different era from that time. So really, if you remember back, in Hattiesburg, excuse me. Yeah, in Hattiesburg. So I really feel like we're in a different era from that time when we played them in that home in 2014-15. You still had a lot of Southern Miss fans at that time sort of look back into the 1980s at that time and sort of go into the common ground and say that, we're kind of on even footing, that you're too afraid to play us in the 2000s. And that really we just need the opportunity to beat you. And I think those two results are kind of underrated in Mississippi State history because that really cemented to Southern Miss at that time. Look, Mississippi State were on a different level than Southern Miss by destroying them both at home and on the road. And that's what brings me to this game this weekend, because it quite concerns me, not because I think Southern Miss is anywhere near 80s Southern Miss. It's just the results that we've seen the past few years for Mississippi State. Lead me to concern that they could lose to an opponent like this, especially on the road. Really, this is all the fault of John Cone, the worst athletic director in Mississippi State history. Quite frankly, it's an embarrassment that he was ever hired as athletic director at Mississippi State. So really, we're living in the glory years here by getting rid of him and having Zach Selman, who would have never scheduled this game. We would have never played Southern Miss on the road. Like, they can come to Starkville all they want, but we should have never scheduled this game on the road. So really, that's my biggest concern right now is just putting up a sort of an embarrassing performance. I'm fine with the squeak out win, just because I know a squeak out win would do a lot more than the damage that a loss would get in this game. Because like we've been discussing, there's a lot more harm that can come from this game than good that can come out of this game. So really, in my opinion, we need to come out and I would accept a close win, but I would say it's the end of the Jeff Levy era if this is a loss.
I think that's a fair takeaway to have. I know Christian is a little surprised here, but look, at the end of the day, if you lose this game, you are staring 2-10 in the face. You got Sven, you're staring winless in the face.
I know I know I made that face there. I agree with him. I just kind of did that because, like, Jeff Levy does have to tighten up a little bit this year, because I would agree with him for sure.
I think he has a lot of leeway for sure. No, don't get me wrong. It's not like, okay, he goes 4-8 and then he's automatically out. I don't think that at all. I just think if you lose this game on the road to Southern Miss, you're going to see boosters awaken in a way that you haven't seen in quite a few years, because a loss to Southern Miss is just not going to sit well with them. So, and there's nothing that you're going to be able to do to make up for that loss either if you're losing to Southern Miss on the road. And like I said, the only reason I'm discussing it like this, it's not because I'm afraid of Southern Miss or whatever, like, that 80s sort of thought that I think some state fans, I don't think many do, but some state fans might be thinking of that. It's because, recent results. You lost to Toledo last year, quite frankly. That's where I think a lot of us are coming from when you're concerned about a game like this.
It's totally fair. And so Sven's replying to you in the comments, like, we have to beat them by at least 3 touchdowns. And I think from a mentality standpoint, is the fan base going to be happy with a close win? No. But you have to take a win if you can get it. Now, when it comes to if you did take a loss, to your point, you are staring a terrible season. You were staring a Chad Morris level start to Jeff Levy's tenure if you lose this game. Because it's 2 things. One, realistically, you can't expect that, which, by the way, I do got to say, man, we are on some negativity tonight to open up our first college show. The game hasn't even kicked off.
This is awesome.
Now, I will say, the other day I was like getting myself pre-mad over like how I'm going to be if State does lose. So I can't say anything for our callers here because I've been right there with them. But I do want to say, like, if we're going to go down this route, if you were to lose realistically, one, there's not a path that you would see a type of season where you improve enough to feel confident Levy is your guy going forward. And maybe he automatically gets year 3. Maybe Zach Selman's going to say, I'm going to give you every opportunity to build out of this thing. It'd be if you were talking about, though, Chad Morris, where it's like back-to-back 2-10 type seasons, like, that is such a tough thing to come back from. And then there's the other aspect of it, which is, because I know some people can always say it's week 1 of the college football season, weird things happen. You're on the road. Southern Miss fired up for their Super Bowl. What if they just happen to spring an upset? And then, like, theoretically, could State improve over the course of the year? Theoretically, sure. But here's the fan buy-in, though, is part of the problem. No one's going to be attending the Arizona State game if you lose this game.
Right.
No one's going to be coming to the Tennessee game if you lose this game. Your only chances of winning those games would come because of home field advantage. Like, it would, like, as Finn talked about earlier, I do think Tennessee's beatable. State needs home field advantage to make it happen. Arizona State, I'm kind of with him that I think that team's going to be really, really good. I won't rule out the possibility that State can maybe make it happen. But you need home field advantage in order for it to happen. Well, no one's showing up. If you lose this game to Southern Miss, no one will be in Davis-Wade Stadium because no one's going to be interested in supporting this team. And just, I think you would lose buy-in from the fan base. last year, man, did a good job of keeping that team fighting hard every single week. I think it'd be really difficult to do for a second year in a row. And I just think things would spiral. So realistically, a loss here just really does get things moving in a direction you just can't come back from. Levy makes $3.8 million. Dr. Keenum will find $3.8 million reasons to fire Jeff Levy if we don't win.
That's fair.
Look,
probably.
I will say this, because it's a first-year coach and he's still not on a huge contract, and also the state of Mississippi, legally you cannot be contracted if you're a state employee beyond 4 years. That is it's a unique stipulation here in the state of Mississippi that now a lot of these coaches, there's workarounds to that. I can assure you Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss, they have him tied down beyond 4 years in other ways. And I'm sure Levy, there's probably some of that. But when it comes to a buyout perspective and what state would have to pay, yeah, you find ways to get out of it. Which we need to change the mentality here a little bit, though. We've gotten off to a pretty tough start. Tom Self here. I hope Levy and this team are watching a G5 team destroy Boise. To be fair, Boise's a G5 too. It's American versus.
To his point, though, they did make the playoffs.
They did.
And they were good.
UCF, this is big for them because their next two games, I don't know about the order of it, but they play Florida and Miami. So if by getting this win, they set themselves up that as long as they don't embarrass themselves against Florida and Miami, if they win the American and they have a win over Boise, which I know Boise's getting blown out in this game, I still think they're head and shoulders above the rest of the Mountain West. I think Boise State will probably still roll through that conference. If you're a USF and you've got to win over the Mountain West champion and your only losses are to two teams that potentially could be really, really good, South Florida, man, week one, they're setting themselves up for a path to the playoff. Sven does want to clarify. I like Levy, don't get me wrong, but we can't lose to a 1-11 USM. No, look, I'm in full agreement here. A loss would be a really, really ugly look for the program. And it's just something that, as Will talked about, as Sven talked about, I think as we've all talked about, it'd be really difficult to come back from. USF nearly pulled one off against Saban and Bama 2 years ago, a row in a monsoon.
Yeah. I know.
Well, I mean, they were talking about
Alabama guy, by the way, Will.
Last year, Bama still had that game was a lot closer than the final score indicated, and if they had hit a few deep shots
away in the fourth, yeah.
Will, any final thoughts from you here before we move on?
No, I guess I'll just say that I guess I was being a little negative there. I was just sort of thinking of what my thoughts were coming into the season here, but I can give you a scenario here real quickly. So to be a little more positive, how about that? So, I mean, let's say you win this game. I think the Arizona State game, like you said, is a big first, I guess, sort of test for Mississippi State to see just how good it would be if you're coming off this win. And look, I mean, I went to Phoenix last year. I was at that game, and I really thought that Mississippi State, from a physicality and size standpoint, was bigger than Arizona State. So that kind of surprised me when you were just watching the game to see them just get pushed around really a lot in that first half against them. So I'm more on the positive side when it comes to that Arizona State game. If you're coming off a win like this, because I just feel like that with the home field advantage and all that you can make something happen and maybe even get that 4-0 start. But when you start looking at the SEC schedule, I think the goal would obviously be to get to 6 wins. That's the dream scenario. I would say there is a scenario where you can get to 6 wins. I think you just have to look, and you'd have to be like, all right, Arkansas on the road, Missouri on the road. I think you're going to have to look at games like that. Maybe even Tennessee at home. Maybe you can pull that off. But it's going to be tough with the conference schedule that has been dealt with us. I mean, a lot of people said, all you have to do is get rid of Alabama, LSU, and Auburn, and the schedule will immediately be easier for State. Well, that gave us a 2-10 season, so I don't agree with that at all. One last thought. As far as our permanent opponents go, I value tradition and I can't even talk, but geography when it comes to that. So I would love for a chance to have somebody from like the SEC West, like Arkansas, LSU, Alabama, or Auburn, or even Vanderbilt. I mean, I know they were in the West, but they're close enough. I just really don't want to be in a scenario where you give us like Oklahoma and Florida or something, just like two teams that have no history, no geography, and that would be my concern. That would be what they would give us, and obviously Ole Miss is a given. But anyways, I will let you all be and let you all move on.
Awesome.
Will, we
Thank you.
appreciate you jumping in. Glad to have you here on the show, and some interesting comments.
Bring something up.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, and Will's still in the back room, but I was looking at some interesting history between Southern Miss and Mississippi State because we had talked quite a bit about the series and how they used to be a pretty big game, and if you wanted to call rivalry, 18, 12, and 1 Mississippi State leads, right? They met 2 years ago, didn't meet last year, but what it was interesting was the last time Southern Miss got a win in the series was in Jackson, Mississippi, 38-21 in 1988. What was interesting is Mississippi State went 1-10 that season and came off a 4-7 record in 1987.
That team is referred. That is the Tekken 10 team because they opened the year beating Louisiana Tech and then they lost their next 10 games.
I just think it's interesting because I mean, is 2-10 like is that the lowest they've gone really since the 80s? Pretty much. I mean, because the 90s, the 2000s, 2010s, they just I don't want to say they dominated like every year, but I mean they were at least always competing for bowl games and stuff, winning 7 or 8 games. So I just think that's interesting. I think history in college football matters, but I also think that like I'm a big believer in like history can repeat itself if you're not careful, but I also believe in rewriting stuff. So if Southern Miss, man, like, wants to play the history card, there's, no reason they can't pull an upset this week. Now, for State's sake, I hope that doesn't happen, but just a little history lesson there.
Yeah, no, it is a series that dates back, and as Finn pointed out, Ole Miss quit playing them a long time ago because they got smoked them 3 times in a row. I mentioned that when we talked about this the other day. Like State, if nothing else, yes, State went a long time without playing. State also stopped playing Southern, but State brought the series back, and they've played regularly since. Now, I don't really care about continuing to play them going forward, but I know a lot of that series matters a lot to a lot of people. And, you talked about, is this the lowest it's been since that time? The end of Jackie Sherrill's tenure, which, I mean, I was a child when that was happening, so it's not like I remember it, but they had 3 straight losing seasons to end Sherrill's tenure after the best stretch the program had ever had. It's kind of crazy that 97 they didn't go to a bowl, but 97 was like 7-4. 98 they win the SEC West to go to the Cotton Bowl. 99 is a 10-win team. They win the Peach Bowl. 2000 is an 8-win team. They win the Independence Bowl, which is the Snow Bowl game that they're going to be honoring against Tennessee later this season with the white throwback uniforms. And then 2001, they go into that year with super high expectations and end up having a terrible year, and they win 3 games. And then follow that up with another bad season in 2002, and then in 2003, I believe it was a 2-win season. And that was the end of it for Jackie Sherrill. It really just kind of fell apart there. It's not the worst it's been since the 80s, but it's the worst it's been in 2 decades. And things have fallen apart a lot. And as Finn points out here, Mississippi State made 13 bowl games in a row before Leach passed. This was the 3rd longest streak in the SEC behind Bama and UGA. You were talking about a program right now that even as things have – oh, there we go. I just knocked my laptop. This is a program that was in a really good spot, man. And no, they weren't in a spot where they were competing on a national level. Obviously, 2014, you put yourself into the national spotlight. But realistically for Mississippi State, like success is having those years where you're going to bowl games regularly, having those years where you're up into the middle pack of the SEC, and then on occasion you jump up and have a year like a 2014, a year like you should have had, in 2018. The 2018 team was one that easily could have been a 10-plus win New Year's Six type team. And then the coaching change really hurt them with Dan Mullen moving to Florida and then Joe Moorhead stepping in. But you've had this great stretch, and it felt like with Leach, you were starting to build back up, and then he passes away, and then since that point, you've really fallen off, and you're kind of going through a total reset. And right now, you are in a position where, you've put yourself in a spot where it's not a certainty that you're just going to be able to handle a team like a Southern Miss. Obviously, after what happened last year, you can't put yourself in that type of a mindset. You're in a position where you are trying to build it back up. But the fact of the matter is, look, as we talked about a lot, State should be in a better spot in year 2 of a rebuild than Southern will be in year 1. But, we'll see. Just a reminder for anyone following along, we do have that link to join in on the stream. It's pinned to the top of the live chat, but we also have it in the description of the video. Just hit that link. Don't turn your camera on. We're still trying to figure out if there's a way that we can have people on, like, chatting without bringing people onto, like, the actual stage. I'm sure there is, but this is our first time doing it. So we're kind of fooling around with it. So, just keep the cameras off. If you are going to join in, we'd love to have you and chat a little bit. But, before we get there, we just talk a little bit about this game, kind of close out our thoughts on this matchup for State. Keys to the victory. What are the keys for Mississippi State to get the win? And, for me, I look at 3 big things. Number one is to dominate the line of scrimmage. I think both offensively and defensively. If you're Mississippi State, you should have the edge in the trenches. And something I think that I thought a lot about when you talk about this rebuild. And Southern, they're in year 1 of a rebuild, and there's obviously so much excitement because of all the pieces coming over from Marshall to help that team really a big step forward. But what I keep going back to is I think it's possible in the portal era when you're talking about a complete roster overhaul, which Southern Miss is experiencing. It's like 85 new players or something crazy like that. In this era, it's possible to, in 1 year, bring in good skill talent, especially offensively. You can go out and get talented receivers, talented running backs, but I think defensively as well. Maybe you don't always get a shutdown corner, although they did because they were able to bring Josh Monson with them from Marshall. But you might get some quality safety, some quality linebackers. There's an abundance of players like that available in the portal. You can also go out and bring in a really good quarterback right away, and clearly they did. But even if you didn't have a connection to a Braylon Braxton, going out and attracting a good quarterback in year 1 of a rebuild is possible because you've got guys like that available in the portal. Reloading the trenches is another story.
Yeah.
I don't think you can do that in one offseason. If you were talking about we have to completely overhaul. If it's a situation where you think, okay, 1 or 2 pieces, we're good, then maybe. But when it comes to going after players in the portal, it's really tough to rebuild it for the simple fact that quality offensive and defensive linemen are not in abundance in the portal. And that's because schools recognize how valuable those players are, which means they're taking care of them in the NIL sphere to make sure they hold on to them. That's not to say big-time offensive and defensive linemen don't hit the portal. We see it all the time. But it's not in terms of having guys that can really play, you don't have it to the same rate that you do at all these other positions. And obviously, when you talk about the offensive and defensive line, the reason that's such a big deal is, in terms of not being able to achieve it in the portal, is that's a spot you've got to be able to build up depth. Depth is crucial at those positions. You've got to be able to – fielding an entire starting unit out of the portal is difficult to do. You're definitely not getting depth, but if you're talking about getting a starting 5 or even a starting 4 for a defensive line out of the portal, that's tough to do in one offseason. You might find a couple solid options, but I don't believe in your ability to fully turn that thing over in one offseason. I mean, look, example here, some spin. Walter Nolan cost Ole Miss $1.3 million for one season. Like, yeah, that's what you're paying for a big-time defensive lineman, and that's one player. Now, one Walter Nolan, defensive line is a little bit different than offensive line because one game wrecker really changes everything. But again, a lot of those guys they're high-value players. And how much can a Southern Miss really be able to go after them? When we talk about the offensive line, even if you felt you were able to go out and get some quality guys, I mean, cohesion matters. Experience matters. Playing together matters when you talk about offensive line success. I say all this to say, yes, Southern Miss did a good job reloading in one offseason. but they are still lacking in the trenches. I know they are concerned about depth on both the offensive and defensive lines. Defensive line, I think they like their starting group, but the depth is a bit of a concern for them. Offensive line, I think they have more questions, and I would also say even if that group ends up being solid, they're in week one. How long is it going to take that group to come together? They're going to be clicking right away. So when we bring it into Mississippi State, MSU has the same problem. MSU, we saw it last year. They were able to get receivers in. They were able to get a quarterback in. They were able to get a running back. They couldn't get the offensive line down. Well, now State's going into year 2, and we still have questions about the offensive line, but we think State's in a better spot at this point. We think State, we've seen it. They've got the depth. They've got bigger bodies. You feel like State is further along there. Defensive line, it's kind of the same story. I don't know that State's got a game record at D-line, and that's something I think you do ultimately need to have. That's one of those reasons I would still say for the defense, they might still be a year away from really being a group that you can actually win some real games with. But they are further along than where Southern Miss is at. So when you talk about the part of the field where it's most likely going to decide the game, State's got a clear advantage just based on the fact that, one, they should have the advantage regardless because you're an SEC team that spent a bunch of money on a roster. But you also have an edge in the fact that you're in year 2 doing this, they're in year 1. So I think when you talk about the biggest key to this game by far, it is dominating with those along the line of scrimmage. It is when you're on offense, being able to impose your will in the run game. I don't think they're just going to line up and run the ball just to run the ball, but I think if Southern Miss gives them a look to run into, you should be able to take advantage. And that's something that they weren't able to do consistently last year, even when playing against lesser opponents. So if you have numbers to run the football, Mississippi State should be able to run the football well. On the other side of the ball, State's defensive line should be able to win against the Southern Miss offensive line. You should be able to stuff their run game. You should be able to generate pass rush. If you're not doing both of those things, I'm going to come away concerned because you should have the edge in those categories.
Yeah, I mean, I think, we've talked about it on here before, Andrew. And I think it's a go-to obvious fact of football that size matters. I hear guys all the time get interviewed for being a great player in a game and say, "Oh, I've been doubted because of my size." Well, yeah. I mean, I hate that happens, but they do look at it as a key factor. Now, is it the biggest thing in the world? Probably not the biggest, but when I look at Mississippi State, especially on the defensive side, I look at Kedrick Bingley Jones, who's 320 pounds. I look at Jamil Burrows, 330. Will Whitson, we've talked about a couple different guys that I'm mentioning, is 295. They have the depth and skill players. They just have to, and I think you've mentioned it almost every week this offseason, at least when we get to the side of defense, as a unit, how do they stack up? How do they perform? And this is a game against Southern Miss where size is going to play a factor. Having those big bodies up front, especially on defense, is going to help them in the trenches to win those battles, to push the Southern Miss offense around. I would hope, however they want to.
And look, when it comes to the Southern Miss offense, there is the wild card here in that they've got a quarterback that can extend plays with his legs. Braylon Braxton being someone that can run, you have to contend with that a little bit differently. But I do tend to think that if you're Mississippi State, you should be able to have the edge there. And you've also got a guy in Isaac Smith that you think you can lean on to go after and contain a player like Braylon Braxton. So I think your defensive front should be able to have the edge. And then the other side of the ball, offensively, I mean, I kind of look at it this way because we talk about, they're bringing over their defensive coordinator. Seymour comes from Marshall. Marshall's defensive line last season and their linebacking core was better than what I think Southern Miss is trotting out there this year. They 100% are better because they had an NFL player at defensive end. They also had a pair of linebackers that are now at SEC schools, and they lost a couple of their top defensive linemen. And I don't think Southern's defensive line is going to be bad. I think, frankly, by Sun Belt standards, it should probably end up being a solid unit. But I don't think it's going to be as good as the defensive front that Marshall ran out last year. Well, last year's Marshall team got run on a lot.
Yeah.
You could run on them and it wasn't even just I talked about Old Dominion, who runs a very similar offense to what Mississippi State is able to run. They ran all over them. And then I also look at games throughout the season. Really, any opponent they played was able to have a lot of success running the football. And again, I don't think State's just going to run the ball just to run the ball, but I do think State will be able to be more physical with what they're able to do up front. Talking about the State defensive front to the other side of the ball, Sven brings up, we had one, Xavier Hardy was committed, but South Carolina simply offered more money. That has to stop. I will say, and look, I didn't like the loss of Hardy, and that's someone that you thought could step in and be a big-time player. I don't know that he's really going to make an impact at South Carolina this year. I could be dead wrong, but he's not a name that's come up a lot there. And I know Steve Robertson has talked a little bit about that. Hardy was not to say that State didn't want him, because State did, but he has made a point that Hardy did not have the production at EMCC that you would have liked to have seen for a guy with his billing, and that he may not have been the same prospect that he was being portrayed as. But look, potential-wise, it's there. And, yeah, they do have to find a guy to be a big-time player along with defensive line. That'll be a thing that's a deciding factor for them when you talk about State defensively. But going back to State's offense, again, I just think the track record is that you should be, even with some of the concerns I have for State's offensive line, the track record is there that you should be able to have success on the ground in this game. And if you do, it's going to help you out and a lot of other factors. That's the biggest key to the game for sure. Two other keys, though. Number two is you've got to limit the explosive plays for Southern Miss's offense. I just talked about that. I think State's defensive front should be able to do what they want to against the Southern Miss offensive front. But what does concern me is that I think Southern's got some good playmakers at receiver, and we know State's got questions in the secondary. And I know this is an offense that Southern's going to run. They're going to want to take those vertical shots down the field. And I think Braxton is a quarterback who can hit them. He's also a guy, as I talked about, can extend plays with his legs. And when you talk about a QB extending plays with his legs, it's not just about him taking off and running. It's about him buying time to get off a play downfield. Southern's chance offensively to put points on the board in this game come from hitting the explosive plays. That's what it's going to boil down to. I do not believe on a play-by-play basis they're going to be able to have much success. It's kind of, as I think about it, I'm watching the South Florida game right now. And South Florida, by the way, runs the same offense Mississippi State runs. It's a different version of it, but probably a more extreme version of it. But it's the Briles offense, which I think Southern Miss is probably about to start running as well. And it's something I've talked about watching this game is at no point have I felt like USF was consistently moving the football. They keep getting stuffed. They just got a big run, but for the most part, they've been getting stuffed. But they've hit some big plays, and that's why they have 31 points on the board and are about to score again. Southern, I kind of feel like it's the same way. As Svez points out, that's why I gave him 20 points. Or Sven, I don't know why. It was a weird pronunciation of his name right there. Yeah, like Southern's chances of putting points on the board are going to come from explosive plays. If you're State, defensively, limit those. I don't think State has to be super aggressive with what they do defensively, because I think you have to trust your talent should win out enough that they cannot nickel and dime their way down the field. I think if you're State, you have to trust that as long as we don't let them hit big plays, they don't have much of a chance. Last big key is limiting the mistakes offensively and avoiding negative plays offensively. I look at Mississippi State's offense, and I think they can have a lot of success here. But the things that killed them last season with an offense that is not as talented top to bottom as this one is, they committed a lot of dumb penalties, holding calls, false starts, just getting in the way and preventing positive plays. Turnovers with fumbles and interceptions, taking sacks. Sacks were a killer last year.
Yep.
They cannot have that happen because, again, it's kind of the opposite thing. Like, really, it's when we talk about the Southern offense versus the State defense. Southern's chance in this game comes down from big plays. explosive plays on offense and big negative plays against the state when they're playing defense. That is their chance. They cannot trust on a down-by-down basis to stop Mississippi State. They can trust to make game-changing plays with explosive on offense and negative plays on defense. If you're State, you cannot have those negative plays. You have to protect the football. You have to be smart. If you're under pressure, if you're Blake Shapen, get rid of it. Do not take a sack. Do not try to force something that's not there. And by God, offensive line, I cannot live to see another year where every single time a good play happens for State, it's called back for holding. Like, you've got to be locked in. And I know week one, working those things out can be difficult, but you've got to in this game because, look, you're on the road, and if you let those type of plays happen, you're just going to let their crowd get into it, and you're going to make it even more difficult on yourself.
For sure. I look at this game and, I think the only way, and I can't remember if I said this specifically on the show the other night, Andrew, but the only way that Southern Miss wins this game is if Mississippi State does not show up and get off the bus. You know what I'm saying? Like, Southern Miss is, could they be improved this year? Sure. But they're not going to be improved enough to where they could just take out an SEC team like Mississippi State. Now, on the other hand, Mississippi State's going to be improved, but only a slight step up from 2-10. We're talking 4, 5, maybe if you could find it, 6 wins on the schedule. Mississippi State has got to win in the trenches on defense. They got to get the good pass rush. They got the players to do it. You look at the offensive side of the ball, keep Blake Shapen healthy. Basically, what I'm trying to say here is the only way this game gets competitive for Southern Miss, outside of it being at home for the Eagles and the home crowd environment, it shouldn't be competitive. I don't think it's going to be because I'm a big believer that Southern Miss is going to get off to a good start this year. I don't know if they're going to finish the way they should, but Mississippi State can shoot themselves in the foot in this game. And that's the only reason that Southern Miss has a chance in this matchup, I think. Because there's really not much going for the Eagles.
If State is as improved as they should be,
yes,
then you are correct. Then going into this game, a loss, it would only happen because you got in your own way. Because you either were not prepared, we're not executing, we're committing dumb mistakes. That is how a loss would happen if Mississippi State is as improved as they should be. Now, we talked about this right off the start of the show as Finn was bringing it up. If it's a situation where State has not improved all that much and Southern it has taken a big step forward, that's a problem in its own right. So I guess there is that path too of what if Mississippi State just ends up being a really bad football team from a talent standpoint once again. That's a whole nother problem. But if it's a case of like you don't come out and execute week one, if nothing else, that's something that is correctable, but you better hope that you're able to hold on for dear life and survive it and still come away with a win. This needs to be a case, though, of you come out and you're executing right away and you're just handling business because you've got to give your fan base reason to buy in. You got to give your fan base excitement moving into the next season. I do think State is a genuinely improved team. I do think the talent has improved enough that they should be able to get this win. There should be a talent gap between the SEC and the Sun Belt, 100%. I don't disagree. Yeah. And if there's not, there is a huge problem. I think the talent is there, specifically on the line of scrimmage, which I do think will be a determining factor. I think Southern can hit some big plays. But as long as State does not let them hit too many of them and they execute on offense, I think we're walking away with the Bulldogs victory. Do want to just give people one, maybe not one last chance, but maybe a second to last chance here. If you want to get in and chat, we'd love to have you. The link to join the stream is both in the pin to the top of the chat, but also in the description to the video. And if you do join in, just keep the camera off because we're still working through how to bring someone up on stage without having the whole box come in. But, yeah, we'd love to have you. So we had our final thoughts on the Southern Miss game. Let's just talk some college football here. We're going to make our picks for the week. 10 games, mostly going to focus on the SEC, and we do want to keep track of how we do throughout the season. And I'm just going to, on the fly here, make a little Google Doc because I didn't already have one ready to go. So I can have our picks.
I might want to write these down too, because like I've made some like prediction videos. I'm not going to go back and go through them, but I'll do my best to come up with something off the top of my head in this moment. So, but I want to write these down.
No, for sure. I'm going to keep them in a document though, as we run through all these. So let's we're mostly going to pick SEC games, but there's a few SEC games that are not worth discussing. So it's not just going to be the SEC. We got some big national games that we want to hit as well. We'll start off with what is the game of the week? Texas at Ohio State. Arch Manning as the full-time starter. Julian Sand stepping in for the Ohio State Buckeyes. Brand new look team, really, for both sides of defending national champions. But they do have Caleb Downs, and they do have one of the very best receivers in the country in Jeremiah Smith. I mean, he is the best receiver in the country. Texas, it's Arch Manning. Replacing a lot on offense, have some key guys back on defense, some incredible pass rushers. This should be a really fun game. Christian, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, definitely the game of the week. Shout out to Lee Corso. Game day is going to be there. Big noon kickoff. Everyone's going to be there, right? I don't know about SEC Nation.
Everybody but Dave Portnoy. He will not be in the stadium.
Burn. All right. No, going into this game, and I mean, it's on record. I don't remember what I predicted score-wise, but how I'm feeling right now. I don't know if there's a team in this matchup, Andrew, that should win the game. I mean, the only case I could make is Ohio State because it's at the shoe. But I like the offense, at least for this year, because I'm a big believer in Sarkisian. I'm going to give it to Texas in this game. But defensively, I give it to Ohio State, especially with guys like Caleb Downs back. In the secondary, I want to see Texas win this game. I would love to see a road upset here. I love Sarkisian. I'm pulling for the SEC over the Big Ten right now because obviously everyone's fighting for which conference is better on Twitter and stuff. But my gut says at this moment, give me a close one. Regular score here, 34-31 Ohio State right now. But I hope I'm wrong.
I don't have a rooting interest because I don't cheer for the SEC. I don't care. I don't care about any other SEC team having success. I mostly cheer against them. I'd be surprised. I'm not going to go with that many points. I think it's going to be a lower scoring game. That said,
really,
I am taking Texas to get the win here. And yes, it's a road game, but I look at it this way. And Sven may not agree because he doesn't seem to be a believer in Sarkisian. But I look at this, and I don't even look at it as Arch Manning versus the Ohio State defense. It's an Ohio State defense that, yes, has Caleb Downs, but everywhere else, they got a lot of new faces. I look at it as Steve Sarkisian's offense against a Matt Patricia defense. Because Matt Patricia is stepping in as the new DC at Texas, and I think that's a big advantage for Sark. And then on the other side of the ball, yeah, Jeremiah Smith is a superstar, but how is Julian Sand going to handle things when he's got Trey Moore, Colin Simmons, and that linebacker whose name I'm blanking on as well, bearing down on him? Some really good players in that defensive front. I think it's going to be a tight game. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, but I will take Texas to get the win over the Buckeyes. So we're going to defer on the very first game.
Yeah.
Other massive, massive game of the weekend, the Battle of Death Valley Tigers, as LSU travels to Clemson for the battle of who is the real Death Valley, who is the real Tigers. LSU, a lot of hype around them as a contender within the SEC, as a national title contender. Garrett Nussmeier is a really, really good quarterback, but they got some questions elsewhere. And then Clemson brings a ton of guys back with Cade Klubnik, a bunch of receivers, outstanding defensive line with TJ Parker, Peter Woods. Who are you taking in this game?
This is going to be fun. This is fun fact for those not paying attention the last few years, this is their first meeting since the 2019-2020 National Championship. Obviously, we remember that team with Joe Burrow and everybody. I actually do remember picking this game. And by the way, we'll be live for it on Saturday night at Ballard Sports Media just before 7:30 kickoff. But I'm going to go Clemson, it being at home. I think this, I think the big talking point, Andrew, is that Brian Kelly has yet to win an opening game. He had 2 with Florida State. He had 1 with USC. He had they haven't won an opener since 2019 because didn't they lose in the COVID year to Texas A&M or no? They lose to Mississippi State? That's right. I think that's right. Yeah.
It was the debut of Mike Leach.
It was the debut of Mike
KJ
Leach.
Costello throwing for 600 yards on the LSU defense.
It was bad, man, for LSU. But I must say it is competitive. I see some good offense from both sides. I see more so the defense. I'm a big believer in Cade Klubnik. I like him for a Heisman pick this year. I'm going to go bold on that statement. I don't think it's their highest scoring game of the season. I think it's a little shaky, and I think you're going to have to, if you want to put more points on the board than what I'm going to give Clemson, you better find a way to keep Nussmeier on the bench. Only because if Cade Klubnik's out there, I think he's going to score at will, but I feel like time of possession wise, LSU is going to win that battle, but they're not going to win the game. I got Clemson 27-17, a 10-point game.
For me, what it boils down to is that LSU is breaking in a new offensive line when Clemson has one of the best defensive lines in the country. Yeah. And Garrett Nussmeier is an outstanding quarterback, and I think he is someone that is so good with pre-snap and post-snap recognition in terms of reading a defense, which is not something many college quarterbacks do well, that even though he's going to have pressure after him in this game, I think he'll be able to find a way to get LSU's offense moving. That said, he's not much of an athlete, and there's only so much you can do if you're under pressure the entire night, and I think Clemson's going to be able to heat up the pressure. I also wonder about LSU, which with a lot of new pieces in their secondary, and also with Harold Perkins playing nickel, I don't know how they're going to deal with Clemson's receivers. So I think Clemson gets the win here. And, yeah, Brian Kelly is going to take another season open and loss. It's going to be 6 straight for LSU. They're going to be losing their minds. I don't think it means that it's a bad season ahead for LSU because I think Clemson's going to be awesome this year. But I do think it'll be a win for the orange-clad Tigers in Week 1. Another Tigers team that wears orange is going on the road to open up the season on Friday night. The Auburn Tigers traveling to take on Baylor. Auburn they got a lot of good pieces on offense, but it's also the whole question of can Jackson Arnold play quarterback or can any of those guys play quarterback if that's where they have to go. Very experienced Baylor team with a lot of really good pieces back for them, including Sawyer Robertson, a former MSU Bulldog at quarterback. Should be a fun chess match, really competitive game. Christian, which way are you leaning?
Give me Auburn. Give me Auburn by 11 points, 34-23. This will be a back and forth shootout, but I could see a scenario where Auburn puts the final nail in the coffin late. I don't know, man. I'm high on Baylor too. I think both of these teams are actually very identical. I think they have really good talent on offense. The only difference I would say between the two is you knew your quarterback going in and you already had your faith with Baylor. We still have to kind of see it for Hugh Freeze and Auburn with Jackson Arnold. I think they have to take a step forward offensively. I think with Perry Thompson and Cam Coleman and company, the pieces are there to be as good as you want to be on offense if you're Auburn. You just need that leader. I think, I don't want to call Jackson Arnold like an average quarterback, but I also don't want to say he's below average. I think he's just a major, I really believe it. He is a major step up from Peyton Thorne last year. So that being said, he can be the leader they need. I don't always pick Auburn on the road, but I'm gonna go with Auburn here, 34-23.
I'm also taking Auburn, and I don't feel good about it because I don't love everything we've been hearing with Jackson Arnold, and that is a big concern. And I do believe in Baylor. I do think that team can absolutely contend within the Big 12. But I see this. One, you talked about the pieces on Auburn's offense. That receiving core is going to be one of the best in the country. That offensive line is also going to be really good. And assuming that Arnold can make the layups that Freeze schemes up for him, I think they'll be able to have some success. Baylor, defensively, I know they got some experience on the back end, but they've got a pretty new defensive line. And I think Auburn might be able to just run the football pretty successfully in this game from a physicality standpoint. That could help them out a lot and take some pressure off of Arnold and what he's going to do in the passing game. On the other side of the ball, look, I buy into the Baylor offense. I also know Auburn's got some really good guys on that defensive line, especially Keldrick Falk. And I will take a team that's been recruiting at a high level defensively over a Big 12 offense. Even though I would love to see Baylor win, my rooting interest will be Baylor. Both in that I don't want to see Auburn win because I enjoy their misery. And also simply the fact that Sawyer Robertson being a former Leach guy, Jake Spavital being an air raid OC or off that tree. I want to cheer for those guys to have success. But I do think Auburn gets the win. Tennessee taking on Tennessee taking on Syracuse in Georgia. They're going to be playing a neutral site battle of teams that are big orange in the Mercedes-Benz. Of course, it's mostly going to be Tennessee fans there. Game one of Joey Aguilar at quarterback and a lot of new pieces for that Tennessee offense. Syracuse replacing a ton from last year's 10-win team. So, yes, that's a program under Fran Brown that won a lot last year, but they got a lot of new pieces. Christian, where do you go?
I like Syracuse this year. Not in this game, though. I think that they have a rough start. I think it's a team that gets better throughout the year because I like Fran Brown and what he's doing. I'm gonna go Tennessee here. Score wise, I don't know. 30. Let's go 31-24. No, 31-21. I'm gonna go 10 points for Tennessee. They get a victory in Atlanta. But I think it'll be a good competitive game. I think if you go defense, I like how Josh Heupel has found ways to improve the Vols defense the last couple years. I feel like Syracuse has that edge there, but I feel like the offensive firepower is going to come from the Vols. And give me the Vols in this one.
So I think Syracuse, if you look at Syracuse offense last year, yeah, they were fantastic. Their quarterback is gone. Like their top 3 pass catchers are gone. Their top running back is gone. I'm pretty sure they're mostly new along the offensive line. All the guys that made that offense click are gone. And you just talked about Tennessee defensively. They're still going to be really good on that side of the ball. I know James Pierce is gone, but they still got some good defensive linemen. They're great at linebacker, potentially really good in the secondary. I think Syracuse is going to have a tough time putting points on the board. And Tennessee, I don't know if there's going to be the offensive firepower there yet because it's so much new game one with Aguilar, no Dylan Sampson, questions at receiver, questions on offensive line. Like, granted, I don't know if Syracuse is going to be great defensively, but I don't think they're going to have to. I don't think Tennessee's offense is going to have a big game because I think their defense is really going to just be able to win this for them. I also take Tennessee in that one. I was about to say last SEC game, but we are going to drop our predictions for State, Southern Miss. I know we did that in the last episode too, but we're going to include it as a part of the picks. On Sunday, Virginia Tech taking on South Carolina, also in Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. Hokies, big year from Brent Pry, really needs to finally get things going there. Still has Kyron Drones back at quarterback, an intriguing transfer class, but it's still very transfer heavy, so a lot of new faces coming in. And then you look at South Carolina, Lenore Sellers back at quarterback. They just had that running back ruled eligible, that a guy that they want to lean on. Some key guys on defense, most notably Dylan Stewart returning. Some high expectations for the Gamecocks as well. But they are losing quite a bit too. Christian, Who do you take?
I think without question, I'm going to take South Carolina. I don't know about a score. ESPN Bet has the spread at 7.5. I might take the Gamecocks to cover that. I could see this being competitive, and I do like the Hokies this year and Brent Pry as a head coach. I think he's done a pretty decent job since he's come in to take over, but it's one of those things for me like um I don't know, man. I feel like there's more firepower for South Carolina. Now, also, I say, that I like Tech's offense too. I thought Kyron Jones was pretty interesting last year to watch. You had Bayshaw, uh, Tutton.
Tootin,
Is
but he's
that
not
right?
there anymore.
Right. Yeah, he's gone. So you got to replace your run game a little bit. You had some guys behind him that I think are back, but it's I don't know. Question marks at running back a little bit. I mean, maybe Jeremiah Coney from what I'm looking at here, but it's I don't know. It could go. Here's the thing. It's like we talked about, and like I've said about Mississippi State. I'm going to say about this game in South Carolina. The only way I see them losing, either Tech is really, really good, and they better run all the way with this. I'm not saying win a national title, but they better beat some tough competition in the ACC, maybe get 8 or 9 wins, do something, right? Because South Carolina is going to be dangerous. But also, South Carolina can shoot themselves in the foot and be their own stumbling block in a game like this. And I think that's more likely than Virginia Tech being an 8 or 9 win team that it just so happens they beat up on an SEC, really good SEC team this year. What do you say?
Virginia Tech is super transfer heavy, and I don't like that
Mhm.
week one of the season. They're breaking a new offensive line. Need a lot. The skill pieces they brought in are probably pretty good on defense. Offensively, and yeah, Drones is a solid quarterback. Their defense, though, it's a lot of new guys on defensive line, a lot of new guys on the back end. I don't love the South Carolina offense, even with Lenore Sellers, because I think they lack playmakers, and I don't love their offensive line. But at the same time, I think Lenore Sellers against a defense that's going to have a lot of question marks, especially early in the season, they're going to be able to find a way to move the ball. And then the other side, new offensive line for Virginia Tech with Dylan Stewart on one end, and as well as some solid defensive tackles. I think South Carolina's going to be able to generate enough pressure and just find a way to get it done. I take the Gamecocks to get the win.
Okay.
You did have, sorry, I forgot, you did have South Carolina, correct?
Yes. I
Okay.
just think that all I was saying was if South Carolina gets in their own way, that's probably the only way I see Virginia Tech getting the victory. But I still like Virginia Tech to have an okay season this year.
Moving over to a battle of a former Pac-12 conference matchup, former Pac-12 South Conference matchup. Utah takes on UCLA. Nico Iamaleava making his debut out in Westwood for the Bruins, and a lot of new pieces there for the UCLA offense. The UCLA as a whole under D'Anton Lynn. Is that no? It's not D'Anton Lynn. It's Foster. I don't know why. I mixed it up with the former USC defensive coordinator, but Deshaun Foster is the head coach there. Utah, new quarterback stepping in. The transfer from New Mexico should be really good on the offensive line. Utah's always going to play good defense. We'll see if former Bulldog Creed Whittemore makes any impact at receiver for them. Devin Dampier, the QB there. I'll just go ahead and make my pick. I don't have a strong read on UCLA. It does sound like Nico's performing well, and they like what they're going to be able to do on offense. But I think Utah is probably a more physical team, and I'm just going to take the Utes because I do think I don't know what UCLA has defensively, and I think Devin Dampier running that offense for Utah, even if it's just a triple option attack, they'll be able to put enough points on the board, and I'll trust their defense more to get enough stops. I'll take the Utes.
I'm going to take Utah as well. Correct me on this. I know it's at UCLA. It's on the West Coast, Rose Bowl, whatever. Is it seriously at 11 p.m. Eastern time on Saturday night on Fox?
I think
Is it
that's
actually
probably right. I think it's a late night.
It's really that late? Man,
Well,
I,
yeah.
I should sleep in and skip church. I think this will be a good night game, man. I really do. I think it'll be very competitive. I'm going to go with the Utes too. I just think there's, they've always had really good wide receivers, and I just think that they're in a better situation than UCLA is. I do think it's going to be interesting to see Nico over there, and I do think he's somewhat talented. He was better in high school than what he showed at Tennessee, but he still showed some really good stuff, I think. And I think he's got potential. I think he's going to have a good season at UCLA. I just don't know how many wins that's going to amount to, and I don't think it comes to the Utah game here in week 1. So I like the Utes here.
Yeah. Monday night. So sorry, I'm not trying to just not react to what you said. I was flipping.
No, you're good, man.
Bill Steele while also editing a Google Doc because I'm changing a pick for this next game. Monday night action. We have the TCU Horned Frogs going to Chapel Hill for the debut of Chapel Bill, and they have recently trademarked Gold Digger. Shout out to him and Jordan. That's not a joke. They legit did that.
Oh no!
Good for them.
Oh geez.
UNC game 1 of the Belichick era. I'm sure it'll be fired up. I'm sure they'll be well coached. We can trust that. I'll be honest, I don't know hardly anything about that UNC team. I think they have it's one of the former A&M quarterbacks starting. They have Gio Lopez, who's the South Alabama transfer, but I don't think he's the starter. I think it's like one of the former
for
Texas
North or for
you cut out.
I was double checking. You're talking about the quarterback for North Carolina this year?
Yes.
Yeah. They got Gio Lopez came over. They still got Max Johnson.
That's who was named starter.
A&M.
I think Max Johnson was named starter. That's who I was thinking of.
He's been around a long time, I feel like. Man.
Yes, he has.
He's been at like LSU, Texas A&M. Now he's at UNC. He's not bad. I mean, I don't think he's not great either. He's your average quarterback in my opinion, but this better be his last year.
There is a point about TCU week 1. As Sven points out, TCU lost to Colorado. They'll find a way to lose to UNC. They definitely could. And they did struggle with Stanford last year. So I don't feel good about this. UNC, though, I know it's Bill Belichick. I just don't know anything about what they've got on this roster. And I know TCU, they're a lot more experienced defensively. They got an experienced offensive line. And they got a really good quarterback in Josh Hoover. I don't love that all of their best skill talent on offense is gone. But I will take the Horned Frogs in week 1 to be able to find enough to get the win on the road.
Yeah, to conclude my thoughts, I'm going to be honest. I love Bill Belichick. I do not like this idea of him coaching in college. I'm sorry. I can't hold my tongue in breath anymore. This is ridiculous. Like, look, there's a good reason that Nick Saban got out when he did. It's because of the portal. It's because he's getting up in age. And it's because of all the NIL. Bill Belichick needs to come to his senses and realize he's an old school ball coach too. I know Patriots let him go. He was rumored to get in some other NFL job. He probably still wants to coach, and that's fine. He needs to stick to the NFL. I don't.
Let me say this.
I don't know, man.
I think it's weird, but the NFL, he's used to paying players.
Right.
Like, he's used to player movement and like he's used to free agency. Like, it is like Saban hated all of that because Saban wanted, he's the ultimate control freak. And I'm not saying this to knock Saban. It's why he was so successful.
They didn't have it when he was coaching in college, basically, until the very end.
I'm sure you're right. Belichick's an old school guy. I'm sure if he was a college coach like Saban was, he would despise it too. But I do think – I don't think it's – look, I'm not buying in on this being a long-term success, and I think the girlfriend thing is very weird, and that I feel like that's going to blow up one way or another. But in terms of him being able to adapt to this era of college football, I can kind of see it. so long as
Yeah.
his team is going to be accepting a no BS. That said, week one, I don't know what to expect out of them. UNC has so many new faces. This could be, like as Sven brought up, another Colorado situation with TCU, what we saw a couple years ago, where they just don't take it seriously. But more proven commodities for the Horned Frogs, so that's the way I'll go. Really, really.
I'm gonna go TCU as well. I don't know about a score. The spread, I think, is out. ESPN Bet has 3.5. I don't know if I would mess with the line or a score prediction because I do see it being very competitive. But I believe more in TCU right now than I do UNC in this game.
I would agree with you. Awesome game. Miami, Notre Dame. I believe that's Sunday night. This is really fun. Also, it's always fun when those two teams get together because there's so much history and there is like some legit hatred between the two. Yeah, I mean, why am I blanking on his name? The QB, Carson Beck. Yeah, Carson Beck making his debut down in South Beach. A lot of experience along the lines of scrimmage for the Canes. Notre Dame, one of the top running backs in the country. And obviously, you know, they're always going to play good defense, always have a strong line. Which way do you go?
Very close. Not too low scoring, not too high scoring. I think it's one of those middle of the road type of games where you're going to have great offense and great defense. I think both teams have great potential. It's in Miami. I'm going to go with the Canes. All about the U, baby. I'm going to go with the score of 35-31 down to the wire, and I think their defense gets a late stop.
You know, Sven, I should say, like, it's a big game. Miami fans show up if it's a big game. They don't they don't
do, man. They pack that
game,
place
show
out.
Up. It's when
it is neutral field though, right?
No, they're in. Yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
Yeah. Shout out to Tua and the Dolphins. Aloha.
You know, people hate Carson Beck and dunk all over him. I actually don't think he's a bad quarterback.
I don't hate him, but like I don't think he's all that like he was in high school and when he first started out at Georgia. He started out okay, and then he kept throwing interceptions, getting hurt, turning the ball over, not making the right plays and reads. I'm not. Part of me doesn't buy it. I'm more so like I feel like the offensive pieces for Miami are going to come together the way they should, like in this game. And plus, I don't know. I trust Cristobal and his coaching right now for this season. I think they're in a good spot.
As long as they're not a game clock management situation. I will also take the Canes because I do think Carson Beck is a solid QB. I think the change is going to be good for him. Playing behind what should be a very good offensive line for Miami, should be one of the better lines in the country. They do have questions about receiver, having to reload that unit after what they had a year ago, but I know they like a lot of the guys they brought in. Their defensive line is also supposed to be really good. Defensively, they should be better overall. Notre Dame, CJ Carr, first start at quarterback in what will be a hostile environment. I know they're always going to be able to run the football, but I think I'll take the more veteran QB in this spot and a team. And Notre Dame also has some questions on their defensive line as well. They're having to replace a lot of guys from last year. So I'll take Miami. Last game, and it's the game we've already talked about. It's the game we predicted on the last show, but we are always going to have the Mississippi State game be a part of our picks because we will use the score predictions just to see if, if we pick differently on an MSU game, that counts as a pick, but also the score prediction can be a little bit of a tiebreaker here or there, although I've never really factored in the tiebreaker thing when I've done this pick with my friends in the past.
Yeah.
But you get a chance here. If you want to revisit your prediction from earlier in the week or change your score, you don't have to. You can stick with the same thing you had last time. It doesn't matter to me. What do you have when the Bulldogs take on the Mustard Buzzards?
Mustard Buzzards. Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I'll have to go back and look what I predicted the other day. But right now, I'm feeling very comfortable about this game. I'm going to go – I'm going to go 42-15 for State, and I'm gonna go 42-10 over Southern Miss. I don't think Southern Miss is gonna have. I mean, like we talked about earlier, though. I mean, again, they're bringing in a lot of new pieces, sure to be improved, but I don't know. This first game, it's going to take some while to break that stuff in, man. It's going to take some time. I don't know if I want to say it's going to take a while, but it's going to take a couple games. I like State to get off to a hot start this season.
Earlier in the week, I believe you had 31-13. So your defensive output pretty similar, but you got more faith in the offense.
I do.
I'm going to stick with the prediction I had earlier in the week. I feel most confident with that. 41-23 is my final score for the Bulldogs. I think they will. I do think Southern will be able to hit a few big plays and be able to put some points on the board, even if it's a late drive that gets them to that point. And I do think State defensively, with still a lot of new pieces stepping in, a lot of guys having to step up, I don't think they're going to be shut down in week one. But at the same time, I have faith State's offense, as long as they're not making mistakes, should be able to pretty consistently move the ball and put a good total on the board with 41 points. So I think it's a little bit of a high-scoring game, but I think it's mostly going to be in favor of the Bulldogs. So I've got 41-23 as my final score for Mississippi State Southern Miss. That's going to do it for us tonight. Went longer than we thought we would, but hey, we're glad because we had some good conversation with a couple callers coming in. Thanks to those guys for being a part of the show. And yeah, we want to keep this going. Want to give you guys an opportunity to be able to chat up whatever's happening with MSU athletics, whatever happened to college football. I do like kind of the more informal format of just getting together and talking ball. This was a lot of fun, even though we did have some structure to it with the keys to the game and with our weekly picks. But this is a really fun show. Glad for everybody and appreciate everybody who joined in. We will be back, or at least I will be back, Saturday in the afternoon, sometime after the Mississippi State Southern Miss game. I can't go live right away afterwards because I've got a few things I got to get written for Maroon and White Nation. But once I get done with that, I'll be set up and we'll be talking about whatever happened with the Bulldogs against Southern Miss. Hopefully we're talking about a big win. If we're talking about a loss or even a close win, you're going to get a version of Andrew that is not – I'm hoping I don't have to bring to YouTube. We'll see how that goes. I mean, I'll tone it in, but I'll be pretty ticked and I'll be pretty depressed, and I'll probably just stare at the screen for a while and not say anything and sit in silence. We'll see how that goes. I'm telling you, this game would affect me a lot more, worse than an Egg Bowl, and because at this point, yeah. I expect the Egg Bowl. It's gone the way it has, and I live in an area where there's only 10 Southern Miss fans that exist on the planet, but all 10 live within a 5-mile radius of me. So I have to interact with those people, and I will not take to it well if this does not go State's way. But yeah, I'll be back Saturday afternoon. We'll go live, recap whatever happened with the game, and just get that pseudo instant reaction. Again, it won't be able to be right afterwards. But yeah, this was a lot of fun. Appreciate everyone who tuned in. Appreciate those of you who participated with the call-in. We want to keep this going. We'll do the same thing. We're going to bring this back next week. We're going to keep this as a regular part of the channel moving forward. Be sure, if you haven't already, give us a like. If you could, subscribe to the channel. Turn that notification bell on so you know whenever we do go live and you can be a part of things. But again, thanks to everybody for being a part of the show tonight. Really appreciate it. So yeah, we will be back on Saturday. See y'all later.
See y'all.